Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, it's September 14th of 2021, and it's almost 2:30 p.m. Let's see what's going on. I've moved the Ava Media camera over there. It's on a tripod, actually, at the end of this desk where the two monitors are. I was able to slide the monitors down a little bit, give me a little more room for the camera to be in there. Over here is the computer that's running a Linux, Ubuntu. Right now I need to, the USB microphone for it is unplugged from that computer. I need to plug it in down there. I changed things around a little bit. You know, the storm that's a tropical storm, and I think maybe did it change to a hurricane when it hit the Texas coast? But we're in Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're in West Fort Worth. The storm that's hitting down there was to come up this way, but with going over towards Louisiana, heavily towards Louisiana. And I think we were supposed to see some results of this by tomorrow here in Fort Worth, but I checked the weather, I think, last night, and it looks like the storm is heavily turned over into the Louisiana area, and it's just a small part of it is in, you know, in Texas. And so I don't think, maybe we'll get some, you know, maybe we'll get some rain from it. So I don't think we're going to have any big storm from it. So let's see what the news is. No, this isn't the news. This is my site. I haven't made that change that I talked about making, where if you use the link, it will take you right to this page instead of to like the home page for my because like I showed in the video yesterday, you come here and you can just keep scrolling down. I wonder if you could just hit let's see, I wonder if I could just hit page down. That would just do one page down. Let's see if I hit end, that'll go all the way to the very bottom. That would be the first videos that I ever made. No, hitting the end just, no. You go to home, that'll take you to the top. Home takes you to the top. Looks like end does the same thing as page down. Let me see. Let me do an end again. Okay, end, my doctor's appointment. Well, anyway, video's 82. It goes as far as 82. Let me go back home. Now let me hit page down. Okay, it doesn't do, you know. Yeah, okay. Page up. We'll go to home. There we go. Live and learn. I did remember for the first time in a long time to turn off the fish tank pump, so you won't be hearing that noise. But I'm looking at the control panel here for Manicam, and it just doesn't. Maybe there's a little bit of a delay with me seeing, because it doesn't seem like it's popping up all the way. Let me drag it over here. Let me minimize so I don't confuse. Let me go ahead and let me minimize this. Let me just drag this over. Here you go. See, right here is what I'm talking about. It says mic in. Testing. Testing. See, it goes up. There's that little bit of a delay. But I don't think that's, I still think my video is going to be in, or my audio and video are going to be in sync. So maybe I shouldn't worry about that. So let's go over to, let's go to CNN first. General Milley, a 4-star general. I just know that because I can see on his shoulders 4 stars. Worried Trump would go rogue. Well, I think a whole lot of people were worried and convinced that the former president was and is mentally ill, severely mentally ill. I haven't been following this recall election in California. It's really bizarre. I just haven't followed it. You know, but it's a bizarre situation. So that they're voting today. The Democrat, in California, there's a petition thing or some type of a thing where you can pretty easily recall or have an election to remove the governor of the state. I'm not sure who, you know, whether there's other people that could be recalled in the similar, or if it's just for the governor of the state. But it's very easy. I mean, you don't need very many votes in order to call for that election. So here, anyway, you know, California is a Democratic state, very Democratic. That's why right-wing people, Republicans, people like that in the United States, they hate New York State, they hate California, they hate Hollywood, the people in Hollywood and stuff like that. So, but anyway, so the governor is a liberal Democrat, and very easily a recall election has been called, and I believe somebody said, I couldn't believe that there was 127 people. I probably got that wrong. That there was 127 people, I think, running to replace him. So they do the recall election, and I guess at the same time, you're voting for somebody to replace the person you're recalling. Seems like you would recall the person, and then the vice governor, or whatever they call it, would move into that position, and then you would have, I don't know. Anyway, I probably got that wrong, but we'll know at the end of the day. But the black gentleman there is an extreme right-wing Republican, and kind of for California, I mean, it would just a Republican getting elected would be sort of, strange. But, well, it'd be strange in this situation where, like, this is going to remove the guy who was elected, a Democrat in a Democratic state, and replace him with not just a Republican, but somebody that's, sort of in that wonderland. And this guy is definitely in that, and I think that he is the top candidate. Maybe because the votes are divided up among these other, but it's a bizarre situation. So I guess at the end of the day, we're going to find out what what happens in California. Where are the next news item? Where are the Taliban's missing leaders? Probably hiding out from, a U.S. strike or something. That's what I would guess if I were the Taliban. Because if I were the U.S., 20 years ago, well, over 20 years ago, the terrorists that attacked, the Twin Towers in New York City, they were trained, and the training was going on at camps in Afghanistan. And although all those terrorists, the 17 or whatever it was, that I think it was 17 altogether, in what, was it 3 airplanes they hijacked now, or 4? Okay, 2 hit the Twin Towers. 1 hit, 4. 1 hit the Pentagon. And the other one is where the passengers fought back. And they couldn't, they couldn't make the aircraft land. They couldn't, but what they did is they kept it from, and I think it was headed for the Capitol, where Trump attempted to, Trump and his followers attempted to, destroy the Capitol. 20 years ago, there was an aircraft heading for the, the Capitol that didn't make it. So anyway, what we should have done back, and I blogged about that heavily over and over again. Back when we went into Afghanistan, I said yes, we needed to go into Afghanistan, but we needed to go in, and we needed to destroy the camps, kill or capture bin Laden wherever he was there, which I guess he was hiding in mountain caves, and then he, I guess now we know, moved over into let's see, Pakistan. Yeah, he moved over into Pakistan. Anyway, I said, we should go in there, do those things, and then tell the Taliban, we would have our troops there, tell the Taliban, okay, here are our rules, we're here, and we've taken over your country, although those people, nobody's ever, I don't think, conquered, because they're tribes, and they've been fighting with each other forever. That's what they do. That's, that's their, I guess they don't have football, baseball, and stuff like that. They just war with each other. But, I said we should go in there and just tell the Taliban, okay, here's what you can and here's what you can't do. I don't care about your fucking religion. Here's what you can and you can't do. And we're not coming back with troops on the, the ground. We're cleaning up now, and we're leaving. But here are our rules, and we will smash you with unbelievable force. Unless these are the things, you can't do the, I mean, don't tell them they have to eat pork or do anything, don't do anything fucking crazy. And some of the stuff that you would, tell them, they probably would consider that just as bad, that you can't force women to stay in burning buildings because they're not dressed properly or trying to escape from the fire. I don't know where you draw the line, but give them the rules and then say this is it, and then don't go back there. But just have our military forces, aircraft carriers and air bases and things like that, and just go in if they And then we should not have, and of course I was big time against ever going into, Iraq, and big time. And I went through my list of conditions before, and blogged about it, of course. And I don't think anybody was reading people were reading my blog, but no, So the Taliban people are probably together. I mean, they're, they lead, well, they don't want to be together, but where are the Taliban's missing leaders? Oh, over the fate of 2 top officials. Let's see what else is the news. Oh, Apple unveils an iPhone 13. I'm sure I can't afford it. And I tried not an iPhone, but I tried what was it, iPad or something like that. And, well, I didn't try it, I bought it, but then I did send it back because, one, with my arthritis, just trying to set it up was agony, but I would have kept it. I mean, I would have, but, then you have to log in and get an Apple email address, and I couldn't do it. I forget the error. I made a video. I forget the errors that I got, but then I did a search, and thousands of other people for years have been having the same problem that I was getting, the same errors that I was getting. And I said, that's it, and I returned it to Amazon. But I did like it, and would have kept it, except I just couldn't. How can I use it if I can't? It's like having a Chromebook or a Chromebox, and you have to have a Gmail. You have to be able to log into it. That's how it works. Okay, we covered. Okay, this is, big news. Woodward and Costa have a new book out, and it's major news. The top U.S. military officer. Anyway, I won't put the link. I won't put the links. Well, I guess I'll put the links. But I mean, this is all going to come out. I mean, it's just unbelievable. A lot of people are going to, the general took special steps to make sure that President Trump could launch a military attack, that he could not launch a nuclear war. A lot of people are going to say, well, that's all. If you ever watched the movie War Games, and we've always said, forever, that a president can't just launch a nuclear attack, that it has to go through, quickly. It has to go through, steps, and that there's, some checks and balances. But this looks like it's beyond, beyond that. The 4-star general back at the Pentagon calling people into a meeting room or whatever who were, key people, and explained to them that, I guess, basically said, I think he said, the current president of the United States is mentally unbalanced. He is mentally ill. He has been mentally ill for a long time. And so here is the steps. If something comes up, if he tries to launch a military attack or nuclear weapons or whatever, you know, I have to be in on this, and it comes to me, and I will make the decision, you know, which is, you know, and then this goes on with other, you know, other stuff about that. And then I guess in this book that we're gonna hear about in detail, you know, Trump's last, there at the very last, his screaming match with his vice president, where unbelievably his vice president, who supported him, you know, and stood in the background and kissed his ass and did everything else, where he stood, you know, where he stood up and talked back to the and screamed, I guess, back at the president. So all of this looks like remarkable stuff, and it's all in this book, which is coming out on the 21st, I believe it is, of this month. So I'm not going to buy the book. I'll just watch people talking about it, you know, on the air. I think the Trump supporters are, I don't think they're going to buy this. What they're going to say is, they're not going to say, well, here are, you know, our finest military officers and people who recognize that the former president was deranged, and they took steps. I think what they'll say is, no, there's always been, one, they're going to say, there's always been, you know, checks and balances on launching of nuclear weapons. This isn't anything new. It is new. I think the other thing they're going to say, a bunch of them, maybe a whole lot of them are going to say, see here, this is, you know, they conspired against the President of the United States, and this is, you know, this is what we said was happening, and there's a plot, and there, what do they call it, dark state or deep state, or, you know, I think that'll maybe, I don't know what's going to, but I think this is going to be big news. For those of you maybe outside the United States, Woodward has done, I don't know, maybe a dozen books. I guess we could go to, I don't know, I have no reason to do that. Just, you know, he's written a number of books that have all been excellent and substantial, and I don't think anybody can find any, well, you could always find some kind of an error, but I mean a minor thing, you could find something, you know. Well, he said that a meeting took place on, you know, January 10th, but it actually took place on January 11th. I mean, you could find something maybe like that, maybe. I think it'd be hard to find any kind of an error that he, you know, makes, because he knows that he could write the most detailed, you know, book. But if somebody can find a little tiny error in there, that's the thing that if they're against him, you know, that's the thing they would bring up. Well, how can you trust him? You know, because he said, you know, that a meeting took place at 4 p.m. and the meeting actually took place at 8 p.m. or something, you know, something. So I know, so his books will be this book, like all the other books, will be extremely correct, detailed, and everything else. I am looking forward, I guess in this book he tells about the screaming match between President Trump and Vice President Pence. And like I said, Pence for 4 years just stood behind, you know, President Trump and nodded his head and smiled, and he never, and as crazy as Trump was, and as Pence was never, you know, he didn't, there were other people, you know, that were behind Trump sometimes when he was talking, and they would like roll their eyes or whatever, and one was his chief of staff, I think an ex-military officer, and there was times that until he quit after he could only take so much of it, and it was painful to see him back there and just shaking his head or doing something, but Pence was 100% behind. So it'll be interesting. Let's see what Fox News, I consider this story here to be major, major news. I can't wait for the book on the 21st. Not very far away. Let's see what Fox News has to say. This is the front page, the top story. It's interesting that I very rarely go to Fox News anymore. I used to watch when we had cable television. I would sometimes watch Fox, news. I'd watch CNN, and then I'd go over, well, how's Fox covering this, and whatever. During our invasion of Iraq or whatever, when our troops were, moving in, like I was watching CNN, and I forget where the troops were, but they had live, video going back of the, moving forward, and I switched over, and the Fox News people were they were way ahead. And I think even when our troops rolled in, I think the Fox News people had, better coverage. The only problem I saw with the coverage of the Iraqi invasion was the Fox News. I remember, watching CNN, then switching over. Okay, what's Fox News reporting? And Fox News was reporting again that they had found. We have found, the weapons of mass destruction, the weapons, and they were showing some tanker trucks or something like that, and I was like, I don't think those are weapons of mass. I think those are trucks for hauling fuel or something, something like that. And then Fox News never correct, it turned out, they did find there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, and Fox News at least 3 times said, we have found here are the weapons of mass destruction, and Fox News just never came back and said no, they weren't. They just, so if you were a Fox News person only, and if you're watching this, you're going to say, oh no, there were weapons of mass destruction there. If you're a Fox News person, because I had friends who would never watch CNN. They only, I'd go to work, and I wouldn't even be talking politics. I'd go to work and we'd be talking, and I'd say, oh, did you see the story about such and such, And they would be, where'd you see that? And I said, well, I don't know. I watch different, different news channels. I switch around. I can't remember what channel. Was it on CNN? Yeah, I watch a lot of CNN, probably on CNN. Okay, then it's a lie. We don't watch, this person, personally, I don't, I never watch, CNN. I only watch Fox News. I don't know how you deal with those people, because if they were watching Fox News, they'll be able to say, well, I saw it on Fox News. They showed it. They rolled up with their cameras and they said, here are the weapons of mass destruction. So I don't know how you deal with, with those type of situations. Anyway, this is Fox News. Look at this is not unusual. There's another one. I haven't been there in months. I just stopped going because it was, let's see, it's a Republican right-wing site, Red State, that's it. There it is. A fake news story in the financial markets exposes as many problems in the media. Yeah, I mean, when you go here, oh, okay, well, here is the Fox, or here's the Red State. So they are reporting this thing of, that's on CNN's front top page. So I just was saying, how are they going to spend it or whatever? Here it is. Mark Milley, the 4-star general, pledged to the Chinese to commit treason in order to undermine Donald Trump. So that's yeah, see, I don't know why, I don't really know, of course I can't put myself into somebody's shoes like that. But, like I mentioned before, when I had back before the World Wide Web, when I had my bulletin board system, I did cover, I had like set up for discussion of all the issues, there still are issues, abortion, guns, and I had to set up, and I had a explanation of, let's say, gun rights, and I don't think nobody did find, the pro-gun position. Then I had really not an anti-gun position, but it was, more sane or right, but I had that. And then people could discuss it there. Everybody was, able to discuss it, and everybody got along discussing it. And but what I noticed was nobody ever changed their mind. I did set up one that was on the best hamburgers, and people there did change their mind. But on all the, abortion, gun rights, whatever the other issue, what are all the top issues, there, none of those people ever changed their mind. So when the worldwide, and one of my point being, I was able to, for each of these issues, I had a position paper, and I was able to draw it up. And nobody ever complained that, no, you made a mistake, on that, because I could do it. I get almost all these other people. I don't think they could do it. Their heads would explode. Fox, the right wing. If they were going to have, let's have a discussion, and put the points here and the points at both sides, here and then here. Then we'll have our discussion, either video or whatever it is. There's no way that those people could present the other point of view, draw it up. I mean, their heads would explode. They just can't do it. They're just so filled with rage, and they just couldn't do it. So anyway, so this is redstate.com. I just don't even go here anymore because there's no point in doing it. Because, like I said a while ago, I said, how are they going to spin it? Okay, here's how they're going to spin it. That this 4-star general, and I don't doubt that, because it's as strange as it sounds, our military, we have connections with other military, and if China was concerned that, is the United States going to launch an attack against us over the virus that Trump calls the China virus, or the way that our system is set up, and I guess every system is set up. You have high-level military people who work with other high-level military people, and they communicate and all this type. I don't know exactly how that kind of stuff works, but if China or some other country is wondering if they should go to DEFCON 1 or in their nation, or what, because of what it looks like over someplace else, then there's this communications or whatever. We're handling things over here. Everything is and they know each other. Because they've met on issues and that kind of stuff. And Now, of course, too, the Republicans, that would be, there again, the deep state, and only Trump, is, you know, our person or whatever. But this is how they're covering it. The four-star general pledged to the Chinese to commit treason in order to undermine. I mean, that alone, when it should be, when you come here and you see a story like that, even if this is your, this is your thing, you're right wing, you want no part of Democrats or the American system. You don't believe in the Constitution of the United States. You don't believe in you believe in the the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, and you claim that you believe in the First Amendment, because of freedom of religion and stuff, but you actually don't believe in the freedom of speech and all this type of stuff. But if you come to say this site, redstate.com, a right-wing site, and this is the type of things you see all the time. If you're a normal, mentally healthy person, you should come here and be sad. Why do they distort it so far? Why don't can't you cover your position? Can't you? But they can't, and that's a problem. That's like when I guess I had cable TV back then, where I was getting actual cable television, and I go by Fox News occasionally, maybe when the president was making maybe the State of the Union address or something, and there would be on Fox News, whatever the news people call, whatever the TV people call the bottom third or whatever, it's not called that. I actually think they should not, that all of them, CNN and everybody, overdoes the thing down there. And I've seen a lot of stories that are being covered by CNN and other places where, maybe it's a fire car chase or something, and they have this banner down there and it's covering up, take the banner off, and unless it's really needed for something. But I can remember going to Fox News, and I think it was State of the Union, not State of the Union, the State of the Nation address or whatever that president makes once a year, and Obama was president, and it said Barack Hussein, President Barack Hussein, Obama, communist, with a question mark or something, and covering, there he is speaking to a joint session of Congress, and that's the banner that they had down there. And then I think somebody asked him about that or something later, and they said, well, no, that was a question we were asking, we were asking if he would, we're not saying he was a communist. And they did stuff like that all the time, and that alone should be a reason to just, and if if you're a Fox fan or something, if those followers of Fox News, if they required, okay, give us the news, that we want, and give us our right-wing stories, and, we want you got to be 100% pro-guns, you got to be 100% death penalty, and you got to be 100% anti-black, that, you wouldn't say, but, these are the things we want. But don't be fucking stupid and do the type of stuff that, that they do. And then Fox News would change, and, they would have to change if their viewers were you know, saying try to hold them to a not a higher standard, but you know, hold them to some type of a standard, then they would have to change. If when they did their survey, if people said, you know, I love Fox News, I love when you have the news ladies and they're required to sit there with their legs showing, and you know, all this, I love that. Keep those women with their legs showing, you know, and all the other stuff, but don't do the following. Then Fox News wouldn't do that other stuff, and they might even get some other people, not myself. Well, I might go back to the way I've been in the past, like checking, you know, this red state was not as bad, and it's gone through several things. It used to be that they had a civil writers, and the guy who I think started it up, and he, of course, had his, you know, agenda, but didn't do the crazy stuff, you know, that they do now. So anyway, I've got my answer. This is, you know, that's how Fox News is going to handle the news. Okay, what did we cover? That's Fox's big news. That's their headline. Okay, they just added this 5 minutes ago. This was not here before. Milley, the general, secretly called Chinese officials out of fear Trump would attack in final days, book claims. 7 minutes ago, so I guess Fox News is getting their, you know, sitting there, you know, having the meeting of the people. Okay, how do we, you know, counter this? And you kind of wish it would be like, okay, how can we report, you know, the news, and you know, be honest and whatever, instead of how can we lie about something and how can we spin something, you know. It's CBS News. Let me refresh that. They're still talking about, yeah, California election. Okay, chokeholds. When I went to the police academy, we had to learn the lateral neck restraint. We had to do it to each other, and I never ever used it. Now it's not a chokehold, but if it's applied wrong, it would be a chokehold, and that's one reason, you know, that if you're fighting with somebody, the lateral neck restraint is you cut off the blood supply to the brain, and that's, you know, that doesn't kill them. It, you know, my concern too about that is, well, you know, it doesn't kill them. What if somebody, when you go to the doctor, maybe not at a young age, I don't know, maybe at a young age, I don't know, that when a doctor does a physical exam of you, you know, they're pressing on these arteries and stuff to see if there's a blockage, if you have, you know, plaque built up in there. They're checking. I don't know what they're checking for. That's beyond my pay grade. But I just felt that it was too dangerous to use, but it was not a chokehold. Now, I don't know if police officers were taught I don't think so. I don't think police officers were ever taught a chokehold. I think they were taught the Lindell lateral neck restraint technique, but maybe they looks like they've done something with which I have complained about, the no-knock entry by the Justice Department has restricted no-knock entries. Yeah, I remember when the no-knock thing went into, and I didn't like that at all. I just saw that it was just, when I was living in, I believe, Carrollton, Texas, I can't remember the exact details, but there was an arrest warrant, I believe, for a young person for possession of marijuana or something. I believe it was in Carrollton, Texas. And the police went there to serve an arrest warrant, and I can't remember the exact time, but it was something like 4 a.m. in the morning, and it was no knock and, break in the door and go in. And I think that the person, I can't remember the exact details, but you know what type of thing happened. I think the person was shot and killed, or maybe the person was shot and wounded, or whatever. And it comes in, and the person says, maybe the person grabbed a gun, or something. Maybe the person, somebody breaks down the door. I remember too when we were. Am I on Fox? No, I'm not. Let me get back to. Well, let me go here to this handsome devil. When in order to qualify, when we shot at the range, for when I was a police officer, reserve police officer, and for the 30 years that I was a hospital security officer, there was, we shot a standard type range. A few times, like when at police academy, we did some extra stuff. Like one time, in the police academy, on one day of our shooting, we did stuff like we did it at night, which was not usual, and with just turned off the range lights, and just had the lights from a few police cars going, and then we ran around the course, came back, fired 6 rounds, ran around the course, came back, fired 6 rounds, and kept doing, so we were out of breath and stuff like that. So we did stuff like that. Anyway, shooting at the police range, been so long ago now. When we had I turned off the aquarium pump, but I forgot to, and I never remembered it because I very rarely get phone calls. Anyway, when we did our shooting for the training, we would pull when we, whatever, whatever we were training on, when we pulled our weapon and intended to fire, if we can't remember the exact, but anyway, we had our finger on the trigger at that point, whatever the stages were, okay, you pull your weapon, and then you have your hand, you have your finger on, finger on the trigger, and So what happened in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was a security officer, well, for hospital security. I worked in Kansas City, Missouri, but then I also worked in Lee Summit, as a security officer at a hospital, and in Overland Park, and different juries, and the city of Belton, small city, we didn't get training from those that we took it. We got it from the Kansas City because we had, But, so that was the procedure, and I can't remember now exactly. I probably could remember. I was carrying, I don't own a gun now, But if I had a gun on my hip, I would, I think, instinctively do exactly what I had been, because I've been trained in that so many times, I would just instinctively do it. But what happened in Kansas City, Missouri was, it was, middle of the night, 3 a.m. or something like that. The police were chasing somebody on foot, I believe. And the person ran into a apartment complex and disappeared. I guess they didn't have exact, I don't know. Disappeared. And then, like, this is 3 o'clock in the morning. One of the apartment doors is standing open. And so the police enter, and I can't remember all the details, but the police enter 3 o'clock in the morning. The house is dark. I'm sure the police had their flashlights, There again, I don't know all the exact details, but the police enter, and then they go, you know where this is going, I'm sure. They go to a bedroom. They enter the bedroom, and some guy, not the bad guy, and I'm not sure, I can't remember now if he was in bed with somebody else, with his wife or something, but, boom, somebody, this force comes rushing into his room, and he sets up, maybe kind of jumps up or something, something like that. The officer pulls, he didn't intend, he had his finger on the trigger. This guy jumps up towards, the police officer pulls the trigger, killed the guy. The guy was totally innocent. That was his apartment. After that, our training was that you might have your weapon out, but you did not have your finger on the trigger. You had it alongside of the weapon, not on the trigger. You only went to the trigger was when you made the decision to shoot somebody, and which shouldn't happen if somebody just might scare the hell out of you, but hopefully so that's the way then we trained after that. We had to train after that. Just like the situation with, I still think it's the most FBI agents ever shot or something. I think it was in Miami, anyway, it was in Florida. And FBI agents were trying to make an arrest or something. I think it was daytime, if I remember correctly. It's a famous case, because I think if you do a search for most FBI agents or something, killed, whatever, so I think there might have been like 5 FBI agents, can't remember. And I think the others were, 2 people. I think they were wearing body armor and everything else. So there was a shootout between the FBI and these two guys. And the FBI agents had, their handguns. And the other guys had, assault rifles with clips, maybe 60-round clips, I don't know. And, not much of a chance, Anyway, all the FBI agents were killed. And when they investigated the scene or whatever, the police officers were like, or the FBI agents were, trying to use car as, as shelter. Or not shelter. Shelter sounds like they got into it, they were, hopefully maybe have the engine between them and the thing, or at least a tire or something, rather, But when the investigation was done, each one of the FBI agents, by them, was shell casings stacked neatly together, right there. And why was that? That was because the training that we went through also was, well, in the range. It was the range officer, when we had to go to the range officers had to pick up the, we had to pick them up, we had a bucket. And, well, we had a bucket, we had to put them in a bucket. Anyway, like on the range when we trained, you put your shell casings right there, so you could then put them in a bucket, and then you get the bucket, and then you go back to where you have your target. You take your target back, it's graded and everything, and then you dump your shell casings in the thing or whatever. And so those FBI agents were doing what they were trained, and that's what you automatically do when you train enough, so after that our training, of course, which changed, where we didn't put our shell casings down together. We just let the shell casing, we ejected them, or dropped the clip, or whatever. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this, and you might let me know what you think about, well, no. Anyway, thank you for watching.